A corporate retreat is interrupted by gunmen determined to make the biggest ransom in history.
Cut off from all communication and surrounded by thousands of miles of wilderness, this boardroom battle takes a deadly turn.
Joseph Finder's power play today on Open Book.
Hi, I'm Christy Cashman.
And I'm Debbie DiMasi. Welcome to Open Book Club, where we celebrate great writers and great writing.
Today we've invited blues legend James Montgomery and political and media analyst Marjorie Clapprood to join us for a wild ride with Joseph Finder and his latest corporate thriller, Power Play. Joseph Finder is the international best-selling author of 8 novels, including Killer Instinct and High Crimes, which became a hit film with Morgan Freeman and Ashley Judd.
In your thriller Power Play, we have the main character, Jake Landry, who's the assistant to the executive vice president, Mike Zorn, of Hammond Aerospace. And he's been asked to go on a retreat with all the corporate bigwigs who, when they get to this very remote retreat in British Columbia, they have no cell phones, no BlackBerrys, absolutely no access to the outside world. Right. And they are suddenly taken hostage by a band of hunters, if you will, and the powerful become powerless.
And we don't know what's going on. We have no idea what's really going on. We sort of see the story through the eyes of Jake, who's like at the bottom of the totem pole. In fact, he's underground. He's so far down in the totem pole. Mm-hmm. And all of these big shots in the company who are kind of swaggering around at the beginning of the book, all of a sudden are powerless. All of a sudden, Jake is the only one who can save them. But as it turns out, an ex-girlfriend of his is there, who
Allie.
is the assistant, Allie, to the CEO, a female CEO, in a big aerospace company, which is basically run by men. Mm-hmm. And the men are trying to undermine the female CEO, and
who's Cheryl Tobin.
Cheryl Tobin, and Jake is sort of watching this, and he doesn't like her at first, mm-hmm. but then he begins to side with her as he realizes that there's something going on in which they are kind of plotting against her. Mm-hmm. So the story is really about how Jake, who is this modest, quiet, somewhat sardonic guy, but keeps to himself, keeps his head down, how he suddenly is placed in a situation where he has to sort of call upon something deep within him that he has been burying all of his life, this kind of this sort of rage.
And the other CEOs are Hank Bodine. Let's go through them. We've got...
Oh, I can't. I cannot possibly name them all. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's
Sorry.
okay.
Big, white, balding, fat
There are types that we know. There are types that we've all met, right? You know, and Hank Bodine is the president of the company. He thought he should have been the CEO.
Yeah. Yes.
And he is a real classic bully. And there are the kind of, jockey guys in their, late 30s, early 40s.
Yep.
And, what happens in this incubator is that people's secrets start coming out. And we begin to sort of learn who they really are.
That's right.
And we find out how Jake is able to synthesize many elements from his past.
Yeah.
And come up with it and start to deal with the situation and take matters into his own hands rather than be a victim.
Yeah, in a sense, Jake is the hero, but they're working against him the whole time because they have no respect for this guy. Who is this peon?
Right.
And he sort of has to, in a sense, start ordering them around. So everything's reversed. The whole social
echelon,
hierarchy is reversed. Yeah, yeah.
Well, when everyone is magnified in those circumstances, it's interesting because you start to like the people you didn't expect to like,
right.
and dislike the people you didn't expect to dislike. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been, I think, in some kind of a crisis, right, or some kind of situation where you're with these people. I was stuck in an elevator once for hours, and you get to know these people. You realize some people, and some people just sort of fall apart, and some people become hostile, and you just want to jettison them if you could, right? And some people, they're sort of quieter, they're strong and stable. So people's true selves come out in crises like this.
And some people you're just able to figure out what they probably had for lunch.
Right,
I don't know.
right. Too much.
I was stuck in an elevator once with Strom Thurmond, and I've had nightmares ever since. Just the
That
experience.
is horrible.
But Steven Tyler loving an elevator? Come on.
But I found out that I had greater power. I hit stop and I said, "I'm sorry, whatever you need, I'm out of here."
But Power Play was such a fast read. It was so good.
I will admit.
I couldn't put it
Wasn't
down.
it?
Yeah, it was really. I never read a book in 2 sittings, and the only reason I took 2 is because it was late at night when I started it and fell asleep.
It really went
That's
by
great,
fast.
but
And,
no.
Debbie
at
and
the end,
I.
you're just going like this. Come on.
I know. And Debbie and I are self-admittedly not big thriller readers, but we've converted.
we should say
You've
this
converted us.
Yeah.
They're fun,
They
right?
are fun.
They are.
But you know what? You're fun, and your character Jake Landry is really fun to read about, and it's so fun to read about how he his process of deduction as he's figuring things out.
I actually, I will admit that I kind of stole this idea from
me.
From
I was going to
Marjorie,
say me.
No, from a real life. I have a friend who's the CEO of a company, and he told me that he had just taken his entire top leadership off in this remote lodge for one of these offsites.
Yeah.
And he said, there was no internet, no phone, nothing. These guys were totally cut off. And I said, man, what if something had happened? Mm-hmm. And he said, don't even think about that. And I said, okay, we got an idea here.
It's so great and it's so timely too, because power play is it's a metaphor for so much, obviously. But when you say they go from the powerful to the powerless, to be reading this in the midst of everything that's going on in our economy it's just great. It's like, oh my God, he knew. All right, you knew ahead of time.
It does feel like that.
It does.
And in fact, I think at the end of the book when you're talking about sources and this and that.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a case that happened that was similar. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that there have been, we don't hear much about them, but there have been kidnappings of top corporate executives. So why don't we hear about them? Because what happens is the companies, because of their arrangement with the insurance companies that insure them,
right.
Their deal is they're not going to bring in law enforcement, and it's going to be settled quietly.
Wow. So
It doesn't happen in this country. It's almost always outside the country. But basically, although there have actually been cases in the U.S., in Mexico, in Colombia, in a number of places, often South America, now the Middle East, these terrorist groups or these radical groups or whatever, if they're looking for money, they'll grab a high-level executive knowing that this is better than kidnapping one rich person. This is a company that has billions of dollars.
Right.
And
which
insurance.
And insurance to reimburse.